And thank you so much for coming to this, the remediation meeting for the Older People in Training team. Now, I know it's not exactly policy to spring a remediation meeting on you without warning, and it's certainly not policy to do it in a group setting, but we've been hearing some really concerning reports that make us feel like this is maybe necessary. I'm going to start off today with just a little bit of revision, and you'll have to bear with me. I know some of you will remember these stats from the induction booklet you all received at birth, but for those of you who were maybe a little bit distracted, I don't know, learning how to hold up your own head or eat solid food, pay taxes, or survive in late-stage capitalism, we're just going to do a quick bit of revision. You'll remember, of course, that you are each and every one a member of the most ambitious cohort of older people in training ever. Ever. Congratulations. Let's talk about the numbers. Back in 1950, only 10.8% of the UK population was aged over 65. These are, frankly, rookie numbers. Now, jump forward to 2018, and we are doing much better. 18% of the population reaching graduation, turning from an older person in training to an older person themselves. And this is pretty neat, but not as neat as what's going to come, because in 2050, we are expecting an almost 25% graduation rate. Almost 1 in 4 of the UK population will be aged 65 or older in 2050. Now, before you get very excited, let me just turn this graph into some real numbers for you, because if you were born in 1965 or sooner, you're right over here in the yellow. Hello. And if you are a fellow 80s baby, born in, say, 1985, this is us in the blue. Old age is coming, folks. It's so exciting. Now, while there are definitely benefits to working on the older people in training team, we're not necessarily seeing the same level of progress across the board. Our sister department in human body systems, for example, not really keeping up. This is nobody's fault. The human body is a big bag of flesh and electricity. It will throw faults sometimes. It just happens. Unfortunately, that has outcomes, particularly for graduates of the Older People in Training program who become older people. Specifically, someone who graduates today, happy birthday, you're 65, is likely to spend almost half of their remaining life with a health condition that significantly impacts them on a day-to-day basis. By the time you're 70, that's 1 in 3 people living with a serious condition that will impact their mobility or cognition or their function, something that will require them to need some kind of adaptation or help. Now, if this is starting to sound a little intimidating, good. You've caught up. Now, the important thing here is 2. 85% of older adults in the UK would like to live the rest of their lives at home. They don't want to go into residential care. They don't want to go into supported living. They want to stay at home. Okay, that works out. We're heading for the biggest ever cohort of older people. Keeping them at home makes sense. Except only 10% of the UK housing stock is currently adapted or accessible to people with physical or cognitive impairments. Biggest ever cohort, 85%, 10%. It's a bit of a problem. Now, before you get lost in the anxiety of visions of Hunger Games style tournaments where you have to fight your friends off for the 1 in 10 homes that are accessible to you in your 60s and above, calm, it's okay. Because while we are here to talk about your performance as older people in training, I'm not just here to tell you off and then run off into the night without any kind of solution. In fact, as an older person in training myself, and a social scientist and a researcher who works on the Designing Homes for Healthy Cognitive Aging project, where we specifically look at how your home can be designed and altered and adapted to support you better as you age, I come with 3 tips and 2 challenges, because we love 5s at TED. The first thing I want you to think about when we are talking about adaptation is how easy it can be. Let's start with contrast. The next time you're repainting your home or replacing your floor, I want you to think about contrast. Specifically, contrast between the walls, the floor, and the door. There are so many conditions that can impact how well your brain intakes and understands visual stimuli. It might be something to do with your actual eye and the mechanics of that. It might be something to do with how your brain processes that stimuli. But in any case, it's very easy for something in that process to go wrong. And when it does, you want a home that will be designed to give your brain the most data it can. Now, both of these are undoubtedly beautiful, and neither of them are my home. But if we move to a short simulation of what might happen if you have low or poor vision, you start to see the problem. Where we have a hall that is beautiful and gleaming and white, a little bit of fuzziness, a little bit of lowered saturation, and suddenly it's very difficult for you to find the door. This might be mildly inconveniencing if you're in your own home, but if you're in a hotel or a restaurant or a friend's house, and suddenly you find yourself in a situation where you can't quite remember how to get out and your environment is not giving you any cue whatsoever, that can be incredibly distressing. All it takes is a little bit of contrast. This one we can see, even with the fuzziness, even with the desaturation, I can still see where the door is. I can still get out. The next thing I want you to think about is cognition, because most of us, when we age, will end up with some form of cognitive impairment. The brain, like the body, big bag of flesh and electricity, and it's incredibly complicated and it throws errors all of the time. But when we're thinking about how we can support cognition at home, specifically our home, I want you to start by thinking about your kitchen. Because living an older life without a cup of tea, because you can't find the cupboard that has the cups in, or you can find the cups but not the tea, or the tea but not the saucer, whatever the problem is, we can get around that. If you look to the picture on the left, you can see that we have these novel things called cupboards that you can see through. It's amazing. From the outside, I know what's in there. I don't have to remember. I don't have to rely on my cognition. I can see what's in there. We also have an amazing thing, and I don't want to wow you too quickly, but the handles on these cupboards, you can see them. You know how to open those cupboards. You don't necessarily know in the pretty picture on the right. Are they the push to open? Are they the pull to open? Will I break it if I pull it too hard? I don't know. So think about that. Just a little bit of extra clue, a little bit of extra help for your brain to help you stay at home. The last thing I want you to think about is access. Now, I've chosen the bathroom specifically for this because most people, when we talk to them about what they worry about aging at home, talk about their ability to continue doing their personal care, their personal hygiene tasks. They want to do it at home, ideally they want to do it in private, and they certainly want to do it in comfort and dignity. We can help them do that. You can prepare to do that, but we need to think soon. The picture on the right-hand side is undoubtedly lovely, but it has a couple of key issues, one being contrast, again, the other being the bath. A huge proportion of slips, trips and falls in the home that send older people into hospitals happen in the bathroom, and they often happen trying to get in or out of baths like this. So the next time you're renovating your home and you're replacing your bathroom, think about a walk-in shower, specifically one with a level access, because then you can step in if you like. You can roll in if you have to, and if somebody needs to come in to help you bathe, they can do that comfortably and with dignity in your own home. They're not big changes, but they are certainly meaningful ones. Now, I said I had 3 tips and 2 challenges. Here's the first one: aesthetics and stigma. When we talk to older people about why they haven't adapted their home, or younger people about why they wouldn't live in a home that's designed for older people, they talk about how ugly it would be. They talk about adaptations as things that are imposed upon them. They need them, but they hate them. Everyone can see that I'm disabled. Everyone can see that I need extra help. They don't blend into my environment. They don't match my decor. I've built a house that I love, and these things are invading it. It doesn't have to be that way. We can design better so much better. We just haven't yet because we've forgotten we are older people in training. That is our future. Those are our adaptations. These are our homes. And when they talk about adaptations outside that might let others in their community know that they need a little bit of extra help, they worry that that will mark them out as vulnerable or as someone they don't want, who doesn't get spoken to. They talk about being stigmatized and ostracized. And we need to change that too. And I can't do that from here. It's a thing we can only do together. Every single person in society acting together can change it. The second thing we need to do is we need to think about access, not just physical access, but access to information. Imagine tomorrow you wake up and you are 85 and you have a variety of health conditions that make your life just a little bit more complicated. Who are you going to ask about your difficulties? How are you going to explain that you can get up and down off the couch, but getting up and down off the toilet is embarrassing and uncomfortable and you're afraid that you'll fall? We need to make information accessible. We need to make information easy to understand. And then we need to make the adaptations themselves equally easy to understand. We need to do to home adaptation what we did to the weighted blanket. We need to take it from a specialized niche item with a hefty price tag and turn it into something that you could find on Amazon or Etsy. You could build it yourself, you could get the weights calculated for you, all of these things. And best of all, no one's going to think twice if they see it in your living room. We need to drive the acceptability up and the prices down. And it has to happen soon because old age is coming and it's a great thing. Think about how many more people we will have, how many more minds, how many more experiences, how many years of human experience we will be able to pull on to talk about our shared societal problems, our shared global issues. We need to foster these communities. We need to support people to be where they are so they can feed into the communities in the way they so desperately want to. But it doesn't just start with policymakers. It doesn't just start with designers. It starts with each and every one of us starting to think about ourselves and our older selves and making those changes one at a time, every single day, until we graduate as older people ourselves. Thank you.